All right, day 433. We're going to look at how do you create a comparable sales list. And this is for the purpose of the BRRRR strategy, right? BRRRR strategy stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And to give you an example why that strategy is so scalable, let's take for example, what do people typically do? They would do a 20% down typically on a property and use all the money that they saved up, buy that property, rent it out, and then save all over again until you have enough of another nest egg to put 20% down on another property and rinse and repeat. But it takes so long because every single time you're using all your capital, you're using it towards a 20% down payment. And then all of a sudden you are in this loop, a very long loop. Now, the BRRRR strategy, essentially, if you were to buy a property for $30,000 and you spend $40,000 on that really rundown property to renovate it, but now you're able to make it worth, let's call it $100,000. You can now go get a debt service coverage ratio loan, a DSCR loan, for let's call it 75% of the value of the home. So if it's worth 100 grand, you can take back out $70,000 in the form of loan proceeds. In other words, you're getting back the original $70,000 that you invested, 30 for the purchase, 40,000 for the renovation. Now you're getting all the $70,000 back in the form of loan proceeds. So now you essentially have $30,000 of equity in this property. You got back out all 70 grand that you spent in cash. And now you can do the same thing over with that same $70,000. And let's say now you buy a home for 50 grand and you can spend $20,000 and now it's worth 100 grand. See how scalable that is? You're using the same $70,000 to buy multiple properties over and over a span of time. That's why the BRRRR strategy is so popular. It's scalable because you don't have to do that original scenario where you're saving for 20% down, buying it, and resaving it. Okay. That's the whole point of the strategy. But what is it dependent on? Right? That strategy of getting the perfect ERV correct, that's the hard part. Like, how are you so confident in what your after repair value is? Because that's going to justify how much money you're leaving in a deal versus taking back out. All right. So in order for us to build our confidence towards comparable sales list, what I do is I create a master comp list. So by zip code, by neighborhood, I essentially write down all the properties that's been sold in the last 12 months. And I know exactly what they've been sold for, the bed bath count, square footage, year built, price per square foot, lot size, whether they have a garage, a basement, or an HOA, and the general conditions of their home. Now that you exhaust all that about a market, right, particularly in all the zip codes in, let's say, Birmingham, what I also do is I also build out a separate sheet specifically for properties that are coming onto the market recently. Now, today, I've been filtered on properties in Birmingham, Alabama. Let me show you. I also get up properties on Redfin, right? These are 4-bedroom homes. These have single-family homes, and they've been on Redfin for less than 3 days. Now, the reason I go about it this way is because if you follow the 10-year treasury yield, let's see, where is that at now today? There you go. You can see the seesaw effect. Now, the 10-year yield essentially has a slow dance relationship, you want to call that. I learned that analogy from Housing Wire, where it's your 30-year mortgage interest rate that's really driven by, one, the 10-year yield interest rate, and also the spread between the 10-year yield. So maybe typically you might see the spread go between 1.5, but it's gotten as high as 3%, right, in terms of the spread between the 10-year yield and 30-year mortgage rates. And if you notice, right, in the last 6 months, you've seen peaks of almost 4.5%. I mean, it's gone up as high as almost close to 4.7% roughly. I mean, it was trying to touch that 8% line, but it's also gone as low as 3.6. So that's a whole 1% interest rate, right? A fluctuation plus you got the spread. So it could be 2-3%. But this is what you want to pay attention to when you think about, hey, what is my 10-year yield trending towards? Because that's going to naturally have an effect on the 30-year mortgage interest rate. And when your mortgage interest rates go up and down, naturally that affects the affordability of homes. So in turn, it also affects your ARV, right? Because that's going to affect what people are going to close properties on. And those closed properties, those sold properties, are going to be used to determine your after repair value on whatever home that you are trying to renovate and make it worth a lot more by forcing appreciation into it. Now, I'm only looking at 4-bedroom properties because I want to see what properties, especially our 4 bedrooms, like if I can find a property that's a 3-bedroom and I can convert it to a 4, how much more value can I add to the property by converting an extra bedroom and meanwhile looking to achieve a higher monthly rental rate because of additional bedroom count. Typically, Section 8 determines the voucher sizes based on bedroom counts. So naturally, the more bedrooms you have, the more rent you can charge, as long as it's reasonable. All right. So for this property, I found this property at 2309 Eufaula Ave. I hope I'm saying it right. Birmingham, Alabama, 3528. So what I'm going to first do is, right, I'm tracking properties that are coming on the market. So this is 23509. I'm going to write down these addresses, write down the URL. 4-bed, 1-bath, 1454 square feet. This was built in year 1940. Purchase price is $115. And now my price per square foot is going to equal my purchase price divided by the square footage, is $79 a square foot. This was listed today at $12,624. Push that meant to be say 24. And the lot size of this property is 7405 square feet. 7405 square feet. Is there a garage? Nope. No garage. No basement. No HOA. And then I want to care about the neighborhood. So if I come in here and I just zoom out, this is closest to this area called Fairview. So I'm going to write it in Fairview. Boom. Fairview. Great. So now you can see that I got some properties that have been coming on in Fairview. This was listed a month ago, $60 a square foot. This was listed at $60 a square foot. This is now listed at $79 a square foot. There's a little bit of premium in there. And that's probably because this home is a lot smaller than some of the other homes. Does that mean you don't get a premium once you go over 1,500 square feet? That could be it. But just remember, right? This is why it's an art, not a science. And obviously, if you want to say, hey, is this a good comp? I mean, you might say, hey, if I bought this home right across the street and it's the same lot size and bed bath count, this would almost be like a perfect comp. But that's not the case, right? As you can imagine, as you go across man-made borders, so like this big street on Bessemer Road, and you go across the I-20, big highways, you go across big natural borders like creeks, not even completely different neighborhoods. Now, even though they might be the same bed bath count, the risk of your ARV being more inaccurate goes higher because now you're in different neighborhoods across different borders, etc. So the risk goes higher. And that's going to be a very subjective decision that you have to make when you decide, hey, am I going to buy this 3-bedroom property convert to a 4-bedroom? Am I buying this 4-bedroom only assuming that it's going to be worth this much money on a dollar per square foot perspective? Why am I making that assumption? What justification do I have that states that this is probably how much is this property going to be worth? If you ever have to challenge an appraisal, what comps, what sold properties are you going to present to the appraiser to challenge that appraisal? To say your home is worth more so that you can get or potentially get more proceeds out from your loan. That's a challenge, right? But that's why this is so important for you to note down, hey, this property in general, I mean, this is decent. I mean, you need new floors. Kitchen needs to be repainted. Whole house needs to get repainted. Half the flooring needs to, half home is in carpet. So I'm gonna write some notes. I always look about kitchen cabinets. Okay. But needs to be repainted. Well, how does the bathroom look? Bathroom is dated. Bathroom is not in good condition. Needs full renovation. Whole house needs to be repainted. And half of flooring is in carpeting, so it'll need to be replaced with LVP. So here's where I am now with the process. Now that I see that this bathroom is not in good shape, that might cost me $8,000, right? But now I know, hey, if this property does sell for 115 grand with its existing condition, this might become sort of my worst case scenario, if you will. Because if this property sells for $79 a square foot, but it still needs a complete cosmetic rehab, now all of a sudden this might become my floor scenario for my ARV estimates in the future. Because hopefully my home, whenever I renovate it, it's going to look better than this home. So in theory, if this home sold for $79 a square foot and I renovate the home to make it look better than this and is in the same neighborhood, then my home should be worth more. And this would now become my floor scenario. And now you can make a judgment where you say, hey, if I buy this property as a 3-bedroom and I turn it into a 4-bedroom, similar square footage, same bed bath count, but my home looks better than this home, but it's in the same neighborhood, then I should reasonably expect that my worst case scenario is that. And then you can talk to yourself, hey, can I stomach that? Is that risk tolerable? Is that what I'm willing to settle for? And that's what you want to go through, right? And that's why building out this list by bedroom count, by zip code, by neighborhoods is so important, so that you can always quickly reference this. And that's how I build out my comparable sales list. All right. Now, if you were to say, well, if you were to analyze this property, like what would this property yield? So let's do this property, right? So let's assume it's 115 grand for my asking price. Let's go through the renovation. This property is a 1454. So I'm going to assume that I need to replace the entire bathroom. So that's $8,000 roughly. I'm just using a rough estimate. For my kitchen, I got to do a small renovation on the kitchen. I'll call it like a low-end kitchen. And I can keep the cabinets. So $6,500. For my painting, it's going to be $1,454. So that's $3 square foot to paint the entire home. For my flooring, I'm going to do $1,454 because I'm still going to replace all the flooring in the home. I got $500 for landscaping and row 46. I got $1,500 for the roof, just in case there's anything I need to get patched up, assuming the roof is in good condition, right? Assume I don't need to replace the HVAC, the water heater, or anything. That gives me total rehab about $40,000, $39,000. Now, for my rents, if I go to affordablehousing.com, I can go to the owner section, go to market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in the bedroom count. I now see that within a 1.5-mile radius for 25 units, the average rent is $1,307. $1,307. Now I get my other details in here. So if I want to look at my payment calculator right here, I know this is wrong. There's no way I'm paying $14 of property taxes on this property. Always double check for your county assessor records to know what your property tax is. So I'm going to assume it's at least $1,000 for the whole year. 1,000 divided by 12, that's $83. And then for my insurance, I got $89. So I'm going to do equals 89 times 1.2. And I'm adding a 20% premium because insurance companies typically view your property as more risky if it's an investment property. So that's why I'm adding a 20% premium. All right. So now that I got that in there, I have now estimated my insurance will be 106. I'm setting aside 10% of my rent every single month for maintenance, because if I'm not replacing my HVAC and not replacing my water heater and my roof right now, I know at some point I'm going to have to replace those. So this money doesn't belong to me. I'm going to have to use that at some point. So don't be that person where you underestimate your expenses and you overestimate your profitability, because you forget about all these expenses that are coming your way, that you know are coming your way. They're not some phantom expense. All right, don't be that person. All right, then I got 10% for property management. I got 5% for vacancy. Now, if I put 25% down for this property in F19, and my down payment is going to equal to my asking price times my down payment percentage in F19, so it's B4 times F19, no arrears else from yesterday, no commissions or assignment fees. I had 2.9% for closing costs, $39,000 for my rehab. My financing amount is going to equal to my B4, my asking price, minus my down payment. That's $86,000. I'll put about 7.5% right now on interest rate, and that's going to give you a total of 124. That's going to give you a total cash flow of $187, right? If you rent out a 4-bedroom for $1,307, You'll cash for $187 a month, and that's a 3.2% cash on cash return. So when you bought this property for $115,000 with a $39,000 rehab, 25% down, 7.5% interest rate. Now I'll do a few more scenarios for you. Let's say my target return is 10%. And I'm not saying 10% is the magical number. This is not investment advice. We're not soliciting any investments on this call. Simply showing you all the work I do every single day to put in the reps to understand and practice. Now, when you lower my asking price to $100,000, let's see what happens. It goes to 4.8. If you go to $80,000, it's now 7.3. Now you go to $70,000, $60,000. There you go, 62,000. This would meet my target return of 10%. Does that mean someone's going to accept your offer when it's $115,000 being listed more? No, but at least now you know what might make this a deal to meet your criteria, right? Let's say interest rates dropped a whole 1.5, right? So now in case 7, I'm going to drop it to 6%. See how my cash and cash return just went up? Now I can maybe afford $70,000 to buy this property because my interest rates dropped from 7.5 to 6%. And that's what differences or a drop in the interest rate can do for your willingness to pay on a property that might still achieve the same cash on cash return, right? That's why you have to talk to your own investment professionals, because some people might not care about cash on cash return. Some people might just say, hey, if I make 5% appreciation on my property and I can break even, that's great enough for me, because they might be buying $1 million property and you go down 5% every single year. That's $50,000. Who cares if you're not making $300 of cash flow a month, right? Everybody has different priorities. That's why everybody has a different strategy for their portfolio. And that's why you got to talk to your own investment professional, because they're going to ask you about your execution risk. What's execution risk? What are the chances that a contractor is going to show up on time and do what he or she said they were going to do for your property? Big question, right? So that's something that you want to make sure you understand really, really well. All right. So now that's what I want to go through today. I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys are able to analyze the same deal and analyze today. Build out your own comparable sales list for whatever market you're joining, right? All I did was I looked at one, what are the sold properties? After you exhaust that list, I look at what are properties coming onto the market for. Then I analyze the deals and I understood exactly what my purchase price needs to be depending on my interest rates, my renovation costs, my other expenses, and my rents. What do they need to look like? Because eventually you're going to calculate ARV and you're now going to realize, hey, if I buy this property for this amount of money and I need to BRRRR it, how much does this property need to be worth for me to pull back out most of my capital? All right. Hope this was helpful, everybody. If you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, go to affordablehousing.io, not .com. Go to the Get Deal Analysis tool. It's the fastest way for you guys to get a copy of the spreadsheet. I didn't make this spreadsheet from scratch. I got it from a few other folks. I modified it. I tweaked it. And that's how I analyze my deals as fast as possible. I can get in and get out and understand what I need. All right. Just learn how to mess with these assumptions. You can double the rehab just by going to B6 and typing in multiple by 2. I mean, there's all these scenarios that you can plug in. So this helps you stay objective versus emotional for the deal. All right. Hope you all have an amazing day. I'll see you all tomorrow with day 434. Have a good one, everybody.